coming your way on CBS Sports HQ. Another beautiful day in La La Land as we head for maybe the warmest Super Bowl on record. I'm Chris Hassel, joined by Pete Prisco. We're going to be joined by our early edge experts in just a minute as we get you our prop special. You had an interesting moment here with Jonathan Coachman just seconds ago. Coach was trying to kick you off this main set because he thought he was supposed to be sitting here.
Yeah, well, if you took the over on me staying in the seat, you won. How about that? That's the prop of the day.
Pete threw him off the set. Hey, 2 hours coming your way, presented by Verbo, a place for together. Let's get you some winning picks, and let's have some fun. The biggest day on the sports calendar is upon us, and even if you don't have a dog in the fight, you can get some skin in the game, or maybe you already have. With sports gambling being regulated in more states each year, it is a virtual lock that we see a record amount wagered on Super Bowl 56, with last year's total estimated at over $4 billion. But where should your cash go? Well, the spread and the game total are the most common bets, but there's serious value out there if you're willing to take a chance on a higher reward. How about 10-1 odds that Joe Mixon will hit triple digits in rushing yards, parlayed with the over in receiving yards for Cooper Kupp? And there's pretty good value on Kupp or Jamar Chase as the last touchdown scorer. And with so many games coming down to the wire this postseason, how about overtime at over 7-1? Want even more value? Take a flyer on the first score being a safety. That pays 45-1. And yes, you can always bet on the over-under on the national anthem, the coin toss, and the color of the Gatorade bat. Whatever edge you're looking for on Super Bowl Sunday, you've certainly come to the right place. And here are the top 5 props by tickets on Caesars Sportsbook. The top one, tails never fails. There's 2 really popular bets, and it's the coin toss. But tails is the best pick from the public right now, and heads is also a top 5 pick. LA first drive outcome, field goal attempt. Cincinnati first drive outcome, field goal attempt. Our Pete Prisco is on both of those. OBJ, first touchdown score. So that's just a little taste of what we are going to be getting into over the next 2 hours here on CBS Sports HQ. Chris Hassel, joined by Pete Prisco. And we also have on our side set the early edge crew, Jonathan Coachman, the coach. We got Larry Hartstein, the Maestro, Kenny White, Wizard of Odds. Can't wait to get it going, fellas. Coach, start us off with the most obscure prop.
Well, it would be, Chris, any prop that Mr. Prisco would be able to go against me because he likes to talk a lot of trash over there on the main set. But if I was close, we'd be face-to-face right now.
Hey, let's go.
I need to focus. So there's over 500 different bets that you can make, right? So I went to one not at the beginning of the game because we're heavily invested in the first play and the coin toss. I'm going to go to the first penalty of the game because all the storylines have been about the referee crew and all the different ways they like to call penalties. So this is just a gut that the Rams win the coin toss, defer, Bengals get the ball. There's a holding penalty to start the game. We catch that at minus 115, and I love it a couple minutes into the game.
Well, Chris, you want obscure. I'm going to the Big Sky Conference. Eastern Washington taking on Idaho State, the worst team in the conference this weekend. Now, the first time they played, they hit 13 trays. The prop is Eastern Washington laying 1/2 against Cooper Kupp receptions. So if Eastern Washington, which is at home now against the worst team in the Big Sky, can hit, say, 10, 11, 13 trays, they should easily cash this over Cooper Kupp because his number is 8.5, but it's actually juiced under. So I love this play. Eastern Washington over Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, good value, Larry. I love that one. I'm going to go with Joe Biden's pick for the Super Bowl. Who is he going to pick? I think Joe Biden's going to pick the Rams. How could he go? Kamala Harris she'd kick him out of the White House if he doesn't pick the Rams in this game. So, and obviously, I think he's got to be a front runner. He's got to pick the favorite in the game. So I say Joe Biden will pick the Rams to win the Super Bowl.
And you guys know how I hate kickers. Just absolutely despise kickers. So my bet and prop is field goal to be missed, doinking off the uprights, plus 600. I think you get great value with that. And we know as much as I hate kickers, somebody's going to miss one off the uprights.
You're morphing into breach before our eyes. I mean, you're liking a lot of kicking props because you like, first drive for the Rams, field goal attempt, first drive for the Bengals, field goal attempt, and a doink off the upright, which can happen at any point in the game, and you get 6-1 odds on that. All right, moving on to our top prop. Coach, what do you like?
Well, one of my favorite WWE superstars of all time was Doink the Clown, so I feel really good about Pete's pick there. But the one thing I've learned from the Early Edge crew this year, Mr. Hassel, is that you can get creative. You can try to go to the ends of the earth to try to find a prop that works. But you want to know who works every single game? Cooper Kupp works. And his prop catch has been at over 8.5 for the better part of almost 2 weeks. So if we can get that still, I would go over 8.5, which is a very, very high number. But all this dude does is catch balls. He goes double figures all the time. I'll take Cooper Kupp over 8.5.
Yeah, and Chris, there's been a big narrative about the Bengals making these unbelievable halftime adjustments with defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo and the way they shut down the Chiefs. But I'm going to buck that trend, and I'm going to go over 9.5 points in the third quarter. I really believe this line should be 10 or 10.5. The Rams score the fourth most points in the third quarter, and they come out aggressive. Matthew Stafford's most deep passes of any quarter, the third quarter. The top two quarterbacks in yards per attempt and top three in passer rating, Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow. I think both teams kind of start out a little bit slow, feel it out, and then after halftime, we see some fireworks.
I'm going to use a Matthew Stafford prop. And there's been so many really good props that have played so far this week. But this one kind of talking it out last night, Stafford rushing attempts over 2.5. He's finally here in the Super Bowl. Finally got away from the Lions. He's on the Rams. He makes it through the playoffs. And he's been using his legs to extend drives. We've seen him get out of the pocket. He's a very smart quarterback. I think he does it several times. And then you have the kneel down at the end of the game. Those are rushing attempts. 2.5, such a low number. I think he gets 4, maybe 5 in this game. 2.5 is an easy win here.
This pains me to do this because I really think so highly of him as a player, and I always say he's going to get his. But I'm going Cooper Kupp under 105 receiving yards. And the reason I'm going to say that is this. Mike Hilton played Cooper Kupp in 2019 when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They played that game in Pittsburgh. I know this is going to be a different environment. But you know how many catches Cooper Kupp had in that game? None. 0. Zippo. And I know he's a much better player now, but I think they're going to do a great job on Cooper Kupp with Mike Hilton. They're going to double him over the top. And I don't think he's getting coach's catch numbers, and I don't think he's getting my yardage numbers. So under 105 receiving yards for Cooper Kupp.
I sense a budding rivalry between Pete Prisco and the coach.
He's just entitled to his wrong opinion. I'm okay with that.
That's why we got to separate him on the set here. Prisco, you're going to sit out these next two game picks, but the line coach has moved down. It was 4.5 when we started this week, down to 4 yesterday, and now 3.5 with that total holding steady.
Hassel, understand this. To have a rivalry, both guys would have to be on the same level. And that just doesn't exist with me and the boy and the man sitting next to you. But on our little show called The Early Edge, we do this thing that I would love to see Mr. Prisco do, where we have a showdown. We play music. We dance. We have fun. But yet everybody's against me this week because I'm on the Bengals. Plus the 4. Everybody's talking about how Joe Burrow's magical carpet ride is going to end this week, or is it? Is it going to continue? Is he going to put his foot down as the next great quarterback with a Super Bowl championship? I believe I won't even need the points, but I'll take the 4 and I'll take the Bengals.
All right, well, Coach, we do have a showdown because I'm on the Rams, and I do believe this Cinderella story does end. I mean, they're +5 in turnover margin. They've had 3 interceptions off tip balls, off 6 tip passes. He escaped all those sacks from the Kansas City Chiefs to run for first downs. I don't think he's doing it against the number 1 pass rushing team in the entire league. The Bengals have been outgained in every single playoff game. This is where it ends. Lay the points. If you can get the 3.5, which is only at Caesars right now, I would take it. That's a great number.
Yeah, I can't believe the numbers has dropped. I thought it would go up. I thought there'd be more Ram money in the market, but I'm going to pass the side. I'm going to go to the total. You know, I love to play totals. And in this game, I think we have 2 very conservative coaches, 2 very inventive guys that are creative on the offensive end. But when it comes to coaching in the game, I think both these coaches will punt at 4th and 2 from midfield, and they'll also kick field goals 4th and 2 from the 25 instead of going for it. So these guys just want to put points on the board. Plus, both love to run the football. We've seen the Bengals run on first down a lot. We've seen the Rams, when they get the lead, they run it out. So under 48.5 is my play for the game.
And that's the trend for the postseason. 5 of the 6 outcomes have gone under for these two teams. Pete Prisco, we're going to get your picks on the game a little bit later in the show. Didn't know you had that kind of clout to tease it for later on in the show. People are going to be sticking around for Pete Prisco's
Key
pick.
release.
Coach, you picked the Bengals plus 3.5. The favorite to win Super Bowl MVP is Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow just behind.
Well, the one thing that never happens is a team wins the Super Bowl and then somebody from the other team wins the MVP, because that would mean they would have to have a very, very close game. The losing squad would have to do something so remarkable to be crowned the MVP. So if I think the Bengals are going to win, I've got to go with the guy who's going to have the football in his hands the most. And, of course, I'm talking about Joe Burrow at plus 220. I don't think any of those wide receivers are going to have the numbers to get the MVP. I don't think anybody else on the Bengals squad will have enough of an impact on the game to get the MVP. So I'm going to go Joe Burrow plus the 220.
And I think it's going to be a Rams defensive effort. And I got to look first at Von Miller at 40-1, going up against Isaiah Prince, the right tackle. He is the 75th best tackle in terms of pass blocking in the league. This is a total mismatch. Von Miller's had 40 pressures, 6 sacks the last 8 weeks. And we know he already won a Super Bowl MVP with 2.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. But I also think Jalen Ramsey up at 60-1 could get it with a pick. And if he shuts down Jamar Chase, last week they threw at him twice. No catches, no yards, and he nearly had an interception. I think Jalen Ramsey could get it if Chase only goes for, say, 4 for 37.
Gotta love those odds, Larry. I'm going to go with the favorite, and I went with this before the championship games. I gave out Matthew Stafford, said at plus 250 2 weeks ago was the bet. Now basically even money to win. Obviously the Rams win the football game. Matthew Stafford would probably end up being the MVP. It's a quarterback-driven league. Matthew Stafford, all the sentimental favorite as well. So I've got to stick with my play, and I do have a ticket at plus 250 on him, though.
Pete, do you remember a losing player getting a Super Bowl MVP award?
Chuck Howley.
Did you watch that game?
I was a kid, but I watched
cover that game?
I did not cover it, but I watched it. Actually, that game was won by a kicker on the final play, Jim O'Brien.
Pete Prisco covering his 32nd consecutive Super Bowl here this week in Los Angeles. He was actually here the last time the Super Bowl was in Los Angeles, 29 years ago in Pasadena. Recapping the picks from our early edge crew, the coach likes Cooper Kupp over 8.5 receptions, Bengals plus 3.5, Burrow his MVP. The Maestro, third quarter over. I like that prop. Over 9.5 points. Rams minus 3.5 game line with, put your money on a couple of long shots here for MVP. Jalen Ramsey and Von Miller and Kenny White. Stafford over 2.5 rushing attempts, under the total of 48.5. And Matthew Stafford, the MVP. Again, Pete's going to give his picks a little bit later on in this 2-hour special here on CBS Sports HQ. When we come back, we're going to get more specific. We're going to narrow it down to just the Cincinnati Bengals. What kind of props do our experts like? Winning picks coming your way next. Our coverage from Los Angeles continues, presented by Verbo, our 2-hour Super Bowl prop special. Chris Hassel with you. Also going to be joined by Pete Prisco in just a little bit. But for now, we send it to the coach. Give it to me, coach.
I would prefer you say, let's send it to the stars of the show. But, hey, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, you said it. We're about to get a little more specific. We're talking strictly Bengals props right now, the Maestro, Kenny White. And, Kenny, I'm going to start with you because the Bengals have been a very prolific offense this entire year. And your first prop kind of feeds into that a little bit.
Yeah, you're right, Coach. It is. Net yardage, total net yardage. Which team will have the more net yards in this game? Rams are minus 160, Bengals plus 130. I love that plus price because there's a lot of different ways I can win this bet and still have the Rams win the game. And I think it'll be all about field position and turnover. So, the offense for the Bengals is going to be outstanding, obviously, with Joe Burrow and crew. So I think plus $1.30 is a lot of value in there. They could still lose the game, as I said, and have the most yardage.
There's no question about that because the game script, a lot of people believe they'll be coming from behind most of the game. Now, Joe Burrow throughout the entire playoffs, his numbers, completions, attempts, yards, they've gone to the over almost every single game. What do you think about his completions in this game?
Well, I crunching the numbers. This is all numbers for me on this one. I went under, and because of his median number for the year on these road games is only 20. And the average defense he played was a 20th ranked defense. Now he's playing the 5th best pass defense in the NFL. So he's really stepping up in class here. The Rams have only allowed 21 completions per game. So those numbers they average 20.5. And I'm at 24.5. I feel like I have a very good under there.
Jalen Ramsey this week was very public about the fact that he wanted to go one-on-one with Jamar Chase this entire game. I was a little surprised by that, to be honest with you. But we'll see if Sean McVay allows that to happen. But what do you feel Jamar Chase will be able to accomplish in this game?
Jalen Ramsey still, I think he's top 5, one of the top 5 corners in the NFL. Pro Football Focus has him number 1. Great praise for him. He is that good. He's a shutdown guy. Jamar Chase's numbers on the road have been lower. As Burrow's passing yards have been lower, Chase's numbers are lower. I'm going under because I think Chase is going to see a lot of double coverage.
There is a great cross-sport prop that you can make, the winning score of the golfer who wins the Waste Management, and against the number for Joe Mixon in his rushing yards on Sunday.
Wow.
So your pick would help if you bet on the golfer. Tell me why.
No doubt about it. The Rams' rush defense, we've seen how good they are. And again, the Bengals have seen the 20th best average defense the entire year. Now they're facing the 6th best run defense in the Rams. I think it's going to be a really tough day for Joe Mixon against that Ram rush defense. They are so good. And I think it's just a difference in class here. The Bengals are still going to run the football. I think Mixon could go over his rushing attempts, but I don't think he gets over the rushing yards.
Now, as far as the receivers are concerned for the Bengals, we know that's where their bread and butter is. Every single playoff game we've seen Chase have a big game, Higgins have a big game, Boyd then have a big game. Which of these three do you think, as far as a catch prop is concerned, is a good bet?
They're the only team in the league that has 2 top 10 receivers, and I don't think T. Higgins gets enough praise for how good he is. Median catches on the year is 7. We're going over 5.5. And again, Jalen Ramsey is going to be shutting down Chase. That means T. Higgins is going to be the guy in this game. 10 targets last week versus the Chiefs. He's going to get 10 more targets in this game. I think he catches 7 passes.
All right, very quickly to recap, Bengals most net yards, Joe Burrow under his completions, Jamar Chase under 79.5 receiving yards, Joe Mixon under 61.5 rush yards, and then finally T. Higgins over 5.5 catches. All right, Maestro, let's move on to you. You heard Pete Prisco, always negative over there on the main set. He's never happy with anything. He says, I hate kickers. Guess what? On the side set, we love kickers. Talk to me.
How can you not love Evan Mcpherson? This guy is 12 for 12 in the postseason. He's 12 out of 14 on field goals of 50-plus yards. His field goal number, 1.5. I'm going over. The entire public is going over. You can call us suckers, but I think this is an easy bet because Zach Taylor takes the points. He's one of the most consistent in kicking the field goal as opposed to going for it. He's gone over this in 7 straight games, 9 of 10. The Super Bowl will make it 8 in a row.
You know, we talk at the early edge about educating and entertaining, and correlated plays are plays that we love. Your next two are absolutely correlated. What do you got?
Yeah, we've seen a changing of the guard in the Bengals backfield in terms of receiving. Samaje Perine, 4 targets in the AFC Championship game. Mixon only 3. Samaje Perine on the field in the 2-minute drill, gets the 41-yard touchdown, shows a really good burst, and he played 12 of the 14 third downs. So I'm going to go over his catch number, which is only 1.5, and I'm going to go over his receiving number, which has gone up from 8.5 to 10.5. I still think there's plenty of wiggle room. He can obviously get that on just 1 catch.
Yeah, Samaje Perine has kind of been a sexy name that's been floating around out here in L.A. all week because he did have that big, much-needed touchdown against the Chiefs to get them on the board. So if Samaje Perine is on the field, that means Joe Mixon won't be on the field as much. What are your next two?
Yeah, I totally agree with Kenny about the Rams' rush defense against Joe Mixon. I'm going to go under Joe Mixon with the rushing yards and also under on his longest rush of 13.5. Joe Mixon averaged 4.1 yards a carry against a schedule of defenses that gave up 4.5 yards a carry. Now facing a Rams defense 3.1 yards allowed in the playoffs. Totally shut down the 49ers, who have a better running game. And when you look at the longest rush, the Rams have given up 22 rushes of 14-plus yards all season. But 9 of those were to wide receivers and quarterbacks on scrambles. So you throw those out. 13 to running backs, only 3 since week 11, and that's out of 180 carries. I love this play. Under 13.5, longest for Joe Mixon, his longest rush.
Yeah, I was a little shocked that the number was this high with the rush defense that the Rams have. All right, let's quickly recap the Maestro's picks for the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to start with Evan Mcpherson over 1.5 field goals. Samaje Perine over 1.5 catches, then over 10.5 receiving yards. Honestly, that could be in just one catch. Then Joe Mixon, longest rush under 13.5 yards. And then Joe Mixon under 61.5 rushing yards. That's coming back at -120. All right, we continue on our 2-hour prop special. When we come back, I'm right back here with the guys, and we're talking Rams props. Will Matthew Stafford be discussed? Cooper Kupp? We'll talk all about it. We come back live from L.A. It continues to be an absolutely fantastic, gorgeous week here in the City of Angels. The sun has literally been out every single second that you could have. LA's been an incredible host as we continue on 3 days from the Super Bowl live from SoFi Stadium. Welcome back into our prop special here on CBS Sports HQ. I am the coach alongside the Maestro and, of course, Kenny White. We're talking all things props. We just got done with the Bengals, and now, boys, we're going to talk about the Rams. And, Larry, I'm going to start with you because when you talk about props with the Rams, it begins and ends always with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and I know Pete Prisco went back to some ancient history with Cooper Kupp and Mike Hilton, and I'm going to stay in the current year, which is 2022. And this season, the Bengals gave up more catches to slot receivers than any other team. Cooper Kupp coming off 2 games where he erupted for over 300 receiving yards. He also is the primary guy in the middle of the field where the Bengals give up a ton of targets. So I love Cooper Kupp over receiving yards, and I may even like this one better. Longest catch over 28.5. Matthew Stafford attempts more deep passes over the middle than any other quarterback. The Bengals give up the most targets in the deep middle of any team in the league. We remember that game against Tampa Bay where he got deep for that 44-yarder. I think you're going to see something similar. Cooper Kupp going deep, getting at least 28.5 yards. And I should also add, in the last 2 games, the Bengals have given up 5 catches of at least 30 yards.
And if it doesn't cash in the first half, it's okay. This is the type of offense that as the game gets later and later and later, he goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, one of the feel-good stories of the entire NFL this year was Cam Akers. And he has been a big reason why the Los Angeles Rams were even in this game. It was just 7-8 short months ago, he tore his ACL. But now he's playing a vital role. What do you got with him?
Yeah, incredible comeback for Cam Akers. The numbers, though, haven't been there, and I think people are down on him. But let's look at who he faced. He faced the 49ers and the Buccaneers, 2 elite rush defenses. Then you come against the Bengals. They were middle of the pack for most of the season. Then they lost Larry Ogunjobi. They've collapsed in the playoffs in terms of rush defense, allowing almost 6 yards a carry. So I want to attack Cam Akers in 2 ways. First rush, over 3.5 yards. In the first quarter, even though his overall numbers have been bad, in the first quarter he's come out and averaged 4.3 yards a carry. 7 of the last 8 running backs to face the Bengals, their first carry has gone over 3.5, and in fact, they're averaging 8 yards on that first carry. So I like him to get off to a fast start. I think the rest should help a guy coming off that major injury. And then longest rush over 13.5. He's very explosive. We all know that, and this Bengals rush defense is just very susceptible. So I'm going to play Cam Akers in both those props.
And I believe that prop will also not cash until a little bit later when the Bengals defense gets a little bit more tired, but they will wear them down over the course of the game. I still don't think they're going to win, but yeah. All right, so quickly let's recap. The Maestro's pick, Cooper Kupp over 105 receiving yards and a half. Kupp longest reception over 28.5. Then Akers first rush over 3.5 yards. And then Akers longest rush over 13.5 yards. All right, let's switch gears now to Kenny White. Now, we're going to continue to talk about rushing games because this one almost seems too good to be true, which is why the juice is pretty high. Where are you starting?
Yeah, you're right, Coach. When I broke down the numbers on this, I have the Rams winning the rushing battle in this game 71% of the time. If they played 100 games, the Rams 71% would win the rushing battle. That comes out to minus 233. And in the odds right now, you only have to lay $1.65. Seems like a high number, but there's a lot of wiggle room there. Rams, obviously, two-headed backfield now, I think. Cam Akers is going to get the bulk of the carries, but Sony Michel has the experience, Super Bowl experience. They're going to rely on him. I could see the Rams with way more rushing attempts and way more rushing yards.
I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be close. So I have a kind of a strange question to ask you, Kenny. When was the last time you were at the club? When was the last time you went out and just cut loose at the nightclub?
It had to be last night.
Well, on our little show called The Early Edge, we have something called the VJM, the Van Jefferson Memorial first touchdown of the game pick. I won't get into all the details here, but the fact that you have him in a prop, it warms our hearts. What do you got with Van Jefferson?
That's great. And I love Van Jefferson. However, Odell Beckham has really come into his own. And Matthew Stafford has been building more and more timing with Odell Beckham. He's going to find Kupp. He's going to find Beckham. The last couple of weeks, it has been all Odell. Now, Van Jefferson's passing yards, 31.5 receiving yards. He has gone under this number in 5 of the last 7 games because of the emergence of OBJ. And that's a problem for Jefferson. In one of the games that went over, he was only targeted once that game. It was a 41-yard reception. I hope he only gets targeted once this game. That'll make it easy for me.
There are 2 players that seem to have a nose for the end zone. And as the playoffs have gone along more, Matthew Stafford's been looking at 2 guys, Cooper Kupp and OBJ. But your next prop, I don't know about it because of how they find the end zone. Tell me that I'm wrong.
Well, I love the game under. And you know what? The one number that really scares me in this game is the Cincinnati Bengals median score in their road games this year.
Okay.
They've outscored their opponents 24-18. Median, 42 points. That's it. They've only allowed 18 points per game on the road this year. Here they are in a road game. They're very conservative. They slow it down. They play slow. They shorten the game. And, they don't give up a lot of big plays. So Matthew Stafford, I'm going to go under 1.5 touchdown passes plus $1.80. I love the big price. Plus 180 on this. I hope Matthew Stafford just throws one touchdown in this game.
Maybe hand it off to Cooper Kupp for those people who want a Kupp anytime touchdown,
yes,
which has been catching almost every single game. Now, we don't normally very often play defensive props. They're hard to handicap. But we've seen between Aaron Donald and Von Miller, they have been a dynamic 1-2 punch since Von Miller came over from the Denver Broncos. You think Von Miller will have a big role in this game?
I do. You're right. Playing defensive props is scary sometimes, and laying big prices is not really profitable in the long run. But if you have value, and in this prop, I think I have a lot of value, and Larry's on it with me, the pressures that Miller has shown. Now, he came to the Rams from Denver. I don't think he was in shape. Did not have a sack his first 4 games. He's now in a sack in 5 of 6 games. He has Super Bowl experience. He has MVP Super Bowl experience, and he's going up against some of the weakest offensive tackles in the game. He is going to be pressuring Joe Burrow all day long. He will get to him. He will get a sack here.
I don't think we can underestimate the nerves, not just on the defensive side of the football, but certainly on the offensive side of the football. That could lead to cashing this ticket, perhaps in the first half. Who knows? Who knows? Now, another rushing prop that probably the average person, the average bettor, is not going to target. You did. What is that?
Yeah, and I used this for my best prop, and I had to use it again here because if you weren't watching earlier in the show, you need to know. Matthew Stafford has been leaving the pocket. This is it. 12 years in the NFL, finally gets to the Rams. He gets to the Super Bowl. He's done everything in his power to win the playoff games, and that is running when he has to. And I think he will take off from the pocket a couple times. I think he'll have a couple of kneel downs as well. Those count as rushing attempts. Matthew Stafford over 2.5 rushing attempts, and it's only minus 105. Low juice as well.
Yeah, don't do any dancing around with 2 minutes to go thinking you have won if you bet against this ticket. As Kenny said, kneel downs do count and sometimes you got to kneel down 2 or 3 times.
Yes, you do.
Whoa. All right, so quickly recapping Kenny's Rams props. The Rams' most rush yards in the game. Van Jefferson under his receiving total. Matthew Stafford under 1.5 passing touchdowns. Von Miller will record a sack. That's minus 170. And then Stafford will rush over 2.5 times, minus 105. We still have plenty more content coming up from the Early Edge crew. Me and the boys. Later today, 6:30 Eastern time, our final Super Bowl mega preview. Then on Sunday, our normal morning show. Then a full 2.5-hour preview. And the first time ever, Early Edge crew will watch live with you. We will put on some of our most active participants. You have a chance to give a pick live on the show Sunday. But you know you're going to have to earn it. And I'll give you all the details on Sunday. The Early Edge, where every single day it is your sports betting brand of record. We'll see you in a little while. But this prop show will continue live from L.A. after the break.
Much more from Coach and the guys as our 2-hour prop special continues from Los Angeles. Up next, we're going to be joined by someone who should have been in this game. Robert Woods hurt himself midway through the season, still very much a part of this team. He's going to tell us, Will Brinson included, how he was able to overcome the injury. HQ presented by Verbo. Our coverage from Los Angeles continues. I get the sense that if you're watching us from, I don't know, anywhere up north, Midwest, you're probably getting sick of seeing these beauty shots because it is gorgeous. I mean, perfect weather here. A couple of weeks ago, it was pretty cold. Oh, my goodness. Upper 70s, even getting into the low 80s, and sun all day, every day. Let's look at the top props by handle. That would be the most money going on these props. Coin toss is always an extremely popular bet. The most money right now is going on tails. Heads is right behind. Will there be overtime? No. That is the third biggest handle right now at the Caesars Sportsbook. Team to score first in the game, Cincinnati. Get more value there. And Mcpherson over total field goals. He has been a superstar for the Bengals this postseason. Just can't miss. Or can he? We'll find out this Sunday. All right, Chris Hassel, joined by Pete Prisco. We have the Pick Six crew standing by on our side set as well. Will Brinson, John Breach, and Ryan Wilson. Let's get right to it. Heads or tails? Will, there's no juice here. It's plus 100 both ways.
Well, Chris, I mean, you are technically, or is it plus 100? That's a good value. That's a really nice bone to throw from the sports book because a lot of times you'll just get minus 110 on each one, and they're taking your money. I mean, look, if this were Arrowhead Stadium, I would just say give up because the Chiefs are going to get it no matter what in overtime. But it's not. It's SoFi, and everyone knows tails never fails. Also, tails, as everyone knows, Sonic the Hedgehog's little pal. So I'm going tails.
Well, Brenton, fun fact, tails has failed 26 times in Super Bowl history. You know what, though? I'm a law of averages guy, and the law of averages says these should equal out at 50-50. Right now in 55 Super Bowls, we've had tails 29 times, heads 26 times. So law of averages says heads, right? I'm going with heads.
I agree, Breach. You are average. But I'm going to go with tails like Brinson. And you mentioned the numbers, so 24-31, that's the record of the team winning the coin toss. So less than 500 doesn't mean you're going to win the game. But, and Breach, you wrote about this at CBSSports.com. You didn't bring it up, so I'm going to steal your fun fact. The last 7 teams to lose the coin toss have won the Super Bowl. So that could be good for the team, as you know.
So you want to lose it on purpose?
Absolutely.
Could the Rams not call anything and just take the L?
Right, so I'm going to go tails and with Brinson, and you're going to heads, it sounds like.
And I usually don't flip coins because I carry all cash in my pocket, so I'm one of those guys. But I'll take tails because I think it's going to be tails. Tails never fails, and I'll just take the 50-50 on that.
Okay, so Breach, the only one with the head here on this set as we continue to pick somewhat obscure props. This next one not super obscure, but how about right now the first scoring play? And these are the odds. A Rams touchdown has the lowest odds at plus 150, and then Bengals touchdown at plus 210. You get into the field goals at 4-1, and then the safety is just, throw it out there. Maybe. I mean, we've seen it happen before. Will it happen in this game? Brinson, what do you like?
Yeah, by the way, I like Pete. I say something about Sonic the Hedgehog, and Pete gets mad, and then he starts humble bragging about how he carries so much cash in his pockets. My God. Look, I think you look at the Bengals and how slow they've started throughout these playoffs. I think maybe I know people are saying they think they'll be loose. I tend to think they'll be more conservative in the early going just because Zach Taylor's going up against his mentor and one of his mentors in Sean McVay. And then I think I like the Rams scripting a little bit better here. So I'm going to go Rams touchdown. I think they close it out in the red zone and score a touchdown as the first score of the game.
You know what? The Rams touch, and I do like that, Brinson. But you know what else I like more? A Bengals field goal. Evan McPherson has been the MVP of this playoffs. We've seen he's hit 12 field goals, 12 of 12, which is the most in playoff history in a single season without a miss. He's been money. I think if the Bengals get the ball first, they might not get in the end zone, but I could see him getting down maybe to the 25, 30-yard line. You send out McPherson, and the one thing I love about this prop, Ryan, is it is plus 400 for Money Mac, a.k.a. Evan Almighty, a.k.a. Kick McPherson, a.k.a. Shooter McPherson, to open up the game scoring with a field goal.
Stockholm Syndrome is real. I am all on Team Bengals, and that's the exact prop I picked as well. I picked Bengals field goal because I have much more confidence. And you talk about the perhaps conservative play early on, Brinson, from both teams. I think I like the Bengals better in terms of being less nervous, if you will. They'll get down into the red zone, won't push it in for a touchdown, but I think Evan McPherson does kick the field goal.
I'm right there with you. That's my pick, too, is Evan McPherson field goal for the Bengals. I don't think they're going to be conservative. I just think once they get in the red zone for the first time, it'll bog down a little bit, and he'll come on and kick a field goal. So I'm with you. I think it's Evan McPherson. And I got to say this. Every single time I pick a kicker prop, I hate it because I hate kickers. I just do. I don't like kickers.
Well, Cincinnati loves their kicker. He's the reason that they are able to play in this Super Bowl this season, one of the main reasons anyway for what he's done in the postseason. And Breach knows that all too well. All right, jersey number of first touchdown score. Bit of an obscure prop. This has changed a bit over the last couple of years because now we have wide receivers who can wear single-digit numbers. So the odds for single digits are up near the top right now, around 2-1. Pete's going to give us a long shot in just a second. Brinson, what do you like for jersey number of first touchdown score?
Well, my lucky number is 11, Hassel, but the real lucky number for this game is 10 because that's Cooper Kupp. And, you can bet Cooper Kupp to be the first touchdown scorer at like plus 425, I believe. This might be better value to take plus 250 because, even though it's not 4-1, you are wrangling in a lot more players that you can now hit on at plus 250. Give me the 10 to 20 range, and I think it's going to be Cooper Kupp, the guy who scores first.
I am going to go a little bit beneath Brinson here. I'm going to go with the single-digit guys. I like
your reverse price is writing me.
Reverse price is writing. The value is not as good as Brinson's. It's only plus 200. But the 1 through 9, there's two reasons why I like it. Number one, Jamar Chase, number one right there. Number one in our heart, number one on his uniform. Good chance if the Bengals score first, he is the one who gets the touchdown. And then the second reason I like this is because the two quarterbacks have the same number. Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, both number 9. Stafford has already scored 2 rushing touchdowns this postseason, so it wouldn't be crazy to see him scoring a QB sneak or something in the end zone. Joe Burrow doesn't have any touchdowns in the postseason, but did score 2 rushing touchdowns during the regular season. So he's another guy who could scramble in the end zone if he had to. And those are 3 players I think could be on the board to get that first touchdown.
Breach, I'm going to join you in the Showcase Showdown. I'm also going 1 through 9. You mentioned many of the reasons. I can't believe you didn't mention this name, number 6, Johnny Hekker. Trick play. Usually throwing the football, quarterback in high school. I'm going to call an end around. We talked about perhaps Jamar Chase or Odell Beckham throwing a touchdown. I'm going with Johnny Hekker. In addition to
Philly special to Johnny Hekker?
There you go. In addition to all the other names, Jamar Chase, Odell, Jalen Ramsey is number 5. So I think there are a lot of options there, 1 through 9.
Chalk for those guys, Pete. Give us some value,
I don't
man.
go for chalk. I give people an opportunity to make some money, and I think this guy actually has a legitimate chance to score the first touchdown, and that's Tyler Boyd. So he wears number 83. So I'm going with all those guys in that grouping plus 1,600. Cash that ticket.
Yeah,
have a good time.
16-1.
If you're in the north, then you can fly out here and have a good time.
You might need it, especially if you're planning on going to the Super Bowl as a fan. That's one of the longer shots among the numbers, though. You could go no touchdown score at 150 to 1. But you think it's going to be a track meet?
I do think it's going to be a track meet.
All right, so Pete Prisco giving us value 16 to 1 for a score by number 83 in this game. All right. The team to take the first timeout in this game, and there's more juice on the Rams. Brinson, I haven't run the numbers, the analytics. Does McVay call a lot more timeouts than Zach Taylor?
Well, Hassel, actually, Sean McVay likes burning through timeouts needlessly more than Pete Prisco likes talking about money. So there's a very good chance that we see Sean McVay burn a timeout in the first quarter. We've seen him. He's just not afraid to use them. He's not afraid to throw away his challenges. He's not afraid to burn his timeouts. I would be surprised if anybody has the Bengals on here, to be perfectly frank. I've got Rams at minus 120.
Yeah, Sean McVay uses timeouts like me and Brinson use hair gel. It is just out of hand. And nobody wastes timeouts like Sean McVay. He's out there. The play clock will get down to 3 seconds. He gets uncomfortable. Boom, timeout. He will probably call a timeout in the first 5 minutes of the game. So you can even up the value there to try and get something out of that. But yeah, I'm taking the Rams here. Sean McVay might use all his timeouts in the first quarter.
I'm taking the Rams. Don't appreciate the hair gel comment, but I think the point is that Sean McVay has not been punished yet for wasting those timeouts. If this happens this week, there'll be a lot more questions asked for the entirety of the offseason. But the way the Rams burn through them, as you guys have talked about, I'm going to also go with the Rams.
By the way, I once upon a time used to use a lot of hair gel, so you might want to stop using it, fellas, because it goes. And I saw yours earlier, Breach. I saw a little recedement on the side, buddy. So quit using the hair gel. You don't need it anymore. I'm also taking the Rams because Sean McVay loves calling timeout.
It's a sweep. Rams minus 120 to be the first team to call a timeout in this game. All right, first player to commit a turnover. Both quarterbacks have the same odds, Will. 20, excuse me, it'd be great if it was 20-1. It's 2-1, plus 200.
Yeah, plus 200 for both of the quarterbacks. And I'm going to take one of those quarterbacks, and it is going to surprise some people because it's going to be Joe Burrow with the first turnover. No, I don't think he's going to make a boneheaded pick or anything like that. I think Von Miller is going to come screaming around the edge and get his paws on Burrow on that first Bengals series, cause a strip sack, maybe run up the score to 14-0 with a house call after the strip sack, and all of a sudden, Breach is in the stands crying because Joe Burrow got pummeled by Von and committed the first turnover.
Or the flip side is that Brinson is crying because his future Hall of Fame pick, Matthew Stafford, kills his Hall of Fame chances by committing the first turnover of this game. I am taking Stafford for this prop. Look, we know that Stafford likes to throw downfield. He likes to take risks, and I think that that's something maybe you do early. He's thinking, let's go for the jugular on our first possession. You go deep, boom. We've seen that the Bengals safeties, they picked off Patrick Mahomes' key point in overtime in the AFC Championship game, and we've also seen Stafford can get a little bit inaccurate. We saw that ugly throw he had to Chuck Whiskey Tart in the fourth quarter of the MC title game.
You're just not going to mention that Joe Burrow has more interceptions than Matthew Stafford in the playoffs?
That Tart dropped. And so I'm going to go with Stafford.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know Breach wants to see you cry for purely vindictive reasons. I want to see you cry tears of joy. I think Matthew Stafford feels like the easy one. Brinson, you're exactly right. No interceptions, I don't think, in postseason. One interception.
One for Stafford, 2 for Burrow.
17 during the season for Stafford. 5 fumbles, 2 fumbles lost. But again, we saw this in the Bengals-Titans game. All it takes is a deflection by the Ryan Tannehill situation, and you can get an easy interception. I think Stafford, like Patrick Mahomes, is going to be less willing to be conservative when they do the drop 8, and he's going to try to squeeze the ball in downfield. So I'm going with Stafford, Pete.
Stop with the crying, and there's no crying in football, win or lose. Stop it, please. Stop it. Breach, if you win, if the Bengals win, you can't cry. If they lose, you can't cry. There's no crying in football.
He's crying one way or another, Pete.
Oh, my gosh. There's no crying in football. You know what? I think Matt Stafford will turn the ball over on an interception early in the game, and here's why. He's thrown 17 picks this year. 14 of them have come against zone coverage, and we know what the Bengals do. They'll play a lot of zone coverage.
Next level, Petey. Thank you, Pete Prisco, and the Pick 6 crew giving us some props here on CBS Sports HQ. We haven't heard from the fantasy guys this week. That's going to change next.
We haven't heard from them for about a month. What are you talking about?
Jamie Eisenberg and Dave Richard got some DFS and got some player props coming for you as well. Our prop special on CBS Sports HQ presented by Verbo. What a season for Cooper Kupp. The most fantasy points by a wide receiver in a single season. Over 400. Jerry Rice was the only guy to go over 400 before this season, and Kupp blew him away. 439.5 fantasy points. Let's get our fantasy insiders in here. Jamie Eisenberg and Dave Richard joining me. Chris Hassel from Los Angeles. Jamie, we were just talking with Robert Woods, obviously not going to play in the Super Bowl, but has been a part of the game planning, and he said, don't be surprised if we see some Rams wide receivers getting some carries in this game.
That would be fun, and that would certainly lead into what the prop we're going to talk about here for Cooper Kupp. Love the setup for him, obviously, to have a big game catching the ball because that's what he's done all season long. And actually, the last time these two teams met in 2019, he had 7 catches for 220 yards and a touchdown, actually his best receiving yardage game ever. But let's play a prop here with him with his rushing, like you said about what Robert Wood said in terms of the Rams receivers carrying the ball. All he needs to do is get 1 yard. That's it, just 1 little yard, Chris, and then we get to cash this one in a big, big way at plus 250. So to go over a half yard, we get plus 250 on this. He has at least 3 carries, 1 carry each of his last 6, three times in each of his last 6 games. So he's getting opportunities, whether it's a pass behind the line of scrimmage or they're putting the ball in his hands. They're giving him the chance to cash this prop, and I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to cash in a big way. So anything Cooper Kupp related, you should be playing in the Super Bowl this week.
I agree, and I love the idea of him catching a pass behind the line of scrimmage, and then he gets a yard. That means that you win on that prop. I like Odell Beckham under 5.5 receptions at minus 130. And it sounds a little crazy because he's had at least 6 catches each of his last 2 games. A lot of people are going to say that he's really been coming into his own. He's got his big role in this LA offense. But I'm telling you that his target rate drops. Pete Prisco mentioned it before the break. I'm expecting the Cincinnati Bengals to play a lot of heavy zone defense. His target rate drops below that 20% threshold against zone coverage, which means Stafford would have to throw 30 passes just for Beckham on average to get 6 targets, much less 6 catches. His catch rate is around 60%. I think he's going to need around 9 targets in this game. I don't think he gets there. I think Beckham ends up with 4 or 5 grabs.
All right, those are your top wide receiver props for the Rams. Dave, right back to you on the Bengals. What do you like for Cincinnati's wide receivers?
There is hype going on for T. Higgins right now, and I am fully on board with all of it. Higgins over 5.5 receptions. The line, the odds have actually moved to minus 115. So if you've got this one and you can get it at better than 115, you should absolutely take it. Here's another receiver, at least 6 catches each of his last 2 games. But his catch rate versus zone coverage, not like Odell Beckham, it's through the roof. And I think you're going to see him come through and catch a lot of passes. He's going to have great single coverage against Darius Williams. Darius Williams, because we're thinking that Jalen Ramsey, Jamar Chase, that's the marquee matchup, right? Darius Williams is 5'9". T. Higgins is 6'4". And when they're mano-a-mano, I know Joe Burrow will throw to him. He will come through with lots of receptions.
Yeah, I don't care who's covering T. Higgins in the Super Bowl. He's going to have a big day. He's going to go over that number. He's also going to go over his receiving yardage number of 67.5 yards. Love the setup for him in this one. He's been over this number 6 of his last 9 games, so the track record's there. 2 in a row in the playoffs already. Probably going to see a setup where the Bengals are chasing points, as we've seen from them in the playoffs so far this season, and I think we'll see another similar setup of Joe Burrow leaning on T. Higgins. He's going to lean on Jamar Chase as well. There's no going away from these 2 guys because they're both going to be special. But don't forget about T. Higgins. As much hype as Jamar Chase is getting, T. Higgins is still going to be a significant factor. He's going to go over his receptions. He's going to go over his receiving yards. He may be the best receiver in this game if the Bengals have their way and end up winning this game and they can control Cooper Kupp a little bit. That's probably a little bit of a blasphemous thing to say, but if the Bengals win this game and T. Higgins has a big part in it, don't be surprised if he has a huge numbers-wise in terms of his catches and his yards.
All right, maybe look at him for potential Super Bowl MVP, too. If that's the case, you're going to get great value on him. Jamie, you're kind of zigging when a lot of other people, well, maybe you're zagging when other people are zigging, vice versa. But you went with your top Rams wide receiver prop was Cooper Kupp over a half rushing yard, and you're doing the same thing Joe Burrow. It's not pass attempts, pass completions, pass yards, anything like that. You're going with rush attempts here.
Yeah, I think we'll see a situation where he uses his legs a little bit, escaping pressure. We know this offensive line at times in the playoffs certainly has had their issues. We can go back to the game against the Titans. But he's been over this number 3 of his last 6 games. And so, I think he'll be able to run a little bit. I think that's an underutilized part of his game, as he's worked his way back from the ACL. So going over 2.5 rush attempts, I think is something that will definitely come into play. And let's not rule out if the Bengals win this game, you get those kneel downs as well. So I like the setup for Joe Burrow. I do think the Rams win, but if Burrow's in that spot to get that victory formation, those count as rush attempts. So I think he does go over this, though, during the course of the game as he's running around, escaping the pocket, escaping the pressure, escaping Aaron Donald. Joe Burrow does cash on this prop with the over 2.5 rush attempts.
But let's be honest here. Joe Burrow's going to have to throw a lot in this game. And I like the over on his passing yards. It's 273.5. This guy's giving you at least 300 yards in 5 of his past 8 games. He's going to see a lot of zone coverage against the Rams. The Rams played the second most zone coverage of any defense during the regular season, and they were over 80% in zone coverage just in the playoffs alone. So he knows what he's going to get. And they specifically play cover 3 zone. Pete knows all about that. Burrow on the season has averaged 9 yards per pass attempt against cover 3. So if he attempts 30 passes, which I think we could all agree is a pretty big lock here, that's 270 yards. He's just a little bit more than that to get over this prop. I think this is a slam dunk. He's going to get you 275 plus.
All right, those are your top Joe Burrow props. How about over to the other side, Jamie? What's your favorite Matthew Stafford prop?
Well, I got two. I'll save one for later, but the first one we'll talk about here is he's going to be very successful throwing the ball against this Bengals defense. He's been on fire in the playoffs, averaging over 300 yards passing per game in the 3 games. But I think you'll see him connect with his receivers quite a bit in this game because of how creative Sean McVay is, how open Cooper Kupp will be, how great Odell Beckham has played in the last 2 games. So I'm taking the over on his 24.5 completions here. When you look at, he's done this each of the last 2 games. He's been over this number 3 of his last 5 games. So he's been in a nice rhythm. So far, he's been great at home, and we know this is a home game for him. So Stafford, I think anything that you look at with the overs here, I'm in love with Matthew Stafford in this game. I think Will Brinson's going to get his opportunity to boast a little bit when he wins this game and ends up taking the opportunity to put himself a little bit further in the Hall of Fame conversation. But Stafford over the 24.5 completions, I think, is an easy one to play this week.
So we're going to differ a little bit on this one. Not that I disagree with that prop, and I'll get to Jamie's prop in a second, but I like the under on the yardage. It's 281.5, and it's falling. If you can get it above 281.5, take the under on it if you can. I've seen it fall as far as 279.5. Again, I'm going to reference that zone coverage, that heavy zone coverage defense that the Cincinnati Bengals tend to play. They did it against Mahomes in the second half, and they were masterful at it. Stafford's lowest quarterback ratings and worst pass efficiency is against that cover 3, cover 4, cover 6 defense that the Bengals are going to play a lot of. Now, here's the thing. If you disagree with that and you think Stafford's going to have a big game, take Jamie's over prop of 24.5. It's even money, just as Jamie told you. Every time in his last 3 times that Stafford's thrown for over 300 yards, those completions have been there for him.
I'm surprised Jamie didn't take any INT props for either one of the quarterbacks, though he did say that one prop for Matthew Stafford he's saving for his top prop of the Super Bowl, so maybe that's it. Let's move to the running backs. Jamie, Cam Akers, what's your favorite Rams running back prop? Going with Akers, who is taking the load for the Rams in the postseason.
He has, but we saw in the game against the 49ers, he didn't exactly do it to the same level he had in the 2 previous games. And now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. And this number is dropping, I think, because people are playing the opportunity of him, dealing with this injury and also the potential of Darrell Henderson coming back. So when I sent the notes in, it was at 16.5 rush attempts. Now it's down to 15.5, and I think that's still a number worth playing because you heard Sean McVay say on Wednesday that we're going to go out with a hot hand approach if Henderson does play as expected, coming back from that knee injury. Again, Akers dealing with that shoulder injury, was limited in practice on Wednesday. We'll see what his practice report is Thursday and Friday going into the game. Sony Michel obviously is going to have a role in this game as well, but I think this is going to be a game where Matthew Stafford's throwing quite a bit. They will run. They will certainly run in the second half when they're playing with the lead, but we just don't know if it's going to be completely Cam Akers like we saw in that game against Tampa Bay, for example, in the divisional round. So taking the under on his rush attempts, I think, is an easy play here based on what we've seen from Akers and the fact that he's less than 100%.
And we haven't seen player props come out on the other Rams running backs, Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson. So write this one in pencil for me. I'll take the over on his receiving yards. It's 15.5. It's not that much, and it's minus 110. You like tendencies. You like how offenses tend to play against a specific type of defense. Maybe you've heard me talk about the Bengals and how they're going to play a lot of zone coverage. We've seen the Rams on the season throw to their running backs 70 times, 70 targets to their running backs against zone coverage, only 12 times versus man. It makes sense. If it's zone coverage, that means the Bengals are trying to defend the big, deep middle of the field. They don't want to allow big play, and it just means that Matthew Stafford has to check down a little bit. If Akers catches 2 passes, he should be able to get you at least 16 yards.
All right, let's go to Bengals running backs. That's Joe Mixon. And Dave, talking with a lot of our experts here, a lot of them are on Joe Mixon unders, specifically rushing yard unders. They just don't think he's going to be able to run the football. You like an over, but not for rushing yards. What is it?
It's the receiving yards, over 26.5 receiving yards. He's been over this in 5 straight games. The Rams allowed 50 receiving yards to each of the last 2 running backs that they faced, and that's really the long and the short of it. I agree with the experts that say that Joe Mixon isn't going to be successful running the football. He's really going to need 1 or 2 long plays for that rushing prop to go over, but he's been much more involved in the Bengals passing game over the last month plus. I expect that to continue.
Twice since November, he's been over 58 rushing yards. Pete Prisco's worked 40 hours more times since November than Joe Mixon's gone over that number. So he did it in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. obviously with the 88 rushing yards. But what you've seen from this Rams defense is certainly in the playoffs, they've clamped down against all opposing running backs that they face. Leonard Fournette with the high of 51. So I think Mixon's going to be in trouble running the ball. I do think he's going to be involved in the passing game. We've seen that from him pretty consistently. We'll also see what kind of role Samaje Perine has in the passing game. But I think this is definitely a game you want to play the under on Joe Mixon's rushing, and that's at 62.5. I think he's going to still be under that as well. Probably look for him in the mid-50s as he struggles to go against Aaron Donald and company for that Rams front.
All right, now to our top prop for Super Bowl 56. Jamie, is this where you bring out your quarterback interception numbers?
No, I'm gonna keep that one for next season, Chris. You know, we had a good run with that one, but usually I only play that when it's juice in our favor. I'm gonna go with Matthew Stafford here with his rushing attempts as well. Like we talked about with Joe Burrow, you're gonna get the opportunity if the Rams win this game for some kneel downs. I think that's gonna be the case. But you're also going to see Stafford. He's been 4 or more rushing attempts each of the 3 postseason games so far. And so he's been using his legs. He has 2 rushing touchdowns. Didn't do it in the NFC Championship game, but did it against the Cardinals, did it against the Buccaneers. I think he'll be able to run against the Bengals defense as well because he's just been in such a good rhythm right now. So taking the over on this one, I think he'll be in that 4 to 5 rush attempt range again. And again, if they are kneeling down at the end of the game, I think Stafford's going to get over this as well. So over 2.5, it's a number that's juiced in our favor as well. But like the setup for Stafford with his rush attempts in the Super Bowl.
Jamie's player prop is plus 100. Mine is plus 1,000. Let's win some money on the Super Bowl with this 3-pronged approach that Joe Burrow will have the most passing yards, Cooper Kupp will have the most receiving yards, and Cam Akers, the guy that we're not sure is going to play a ton for the Rams, but I think he will, he's going to lead the game in rushing yards. If those 3 things happen, you get 10 to 1 on your money. Book it. It's going down.
Love it. Love the value there. And Jamie, I know you don't like the juice for the quarterback interceptions, but if you parlay both quarterbacks to throw a pick, it's plus 210. Do you like that?
Oh, yeah, then we'll go that route as well. I heard you guys talking about this with Stafford. I do think he'll be a little bit aggressive, does have the 1 interception in the playoffs so far. Burrow has a couple of interceptions as well. So, yes, I do think both guys will get a little turnover prone, but usually I play that one when it's for the individual quarterback going over when it's juice in our favor. But, yeah, if you want to parlay it with both those guys, absolutely go that route for sure.
All right, let's DFS it up here. Dave, give us your lineup.
I'm going FanDuel for my lineup, and the team that I really want to be a part of for my FanDuel lineup is Cincinnati because I think they're going to throw a lot. I talked about how much I like T. Higgins. I want that Burrow to Higgins stack, and I put Tyler Boyd in there for cheap, and I'm banking on Tyler Higbee not playing, and when I saw that, I had to put Kendall Blanton in my lineup. Put all that with Cooper Kupp, and I've got a lot of receivers loaded up in my lineup with Joe Burrow putting up huge numbers through the air.
I'll go the other way with the Rams on DraftKings. Love the setup for Stafford. Like I said, he's been averaging over 300 yards in the playoffs at home so far this season, 10 games at home. Again, home game for the Rams, essentially. 288.8 passing yards per game in that building. So he's going to have success once again. 26 touchdowns on the season. As you see, 2 touchdowns per game in the playoffs so far. So Stafford in the captain spot and stacking in with Cooper Kupp and Beckham. Like I said, Beckham's going to have a big game. He's faced the Bengals twice during his time, his last 2 times. With the Browns, over 74 yards in both those 2 games, a touchdown in each of those 2 games. So he's somewhat familiar with facing the Bengals and what they'll throw at him. I think it'll be a big game for Beckham, obviously for Kupp. You have to play T. Higgins. He's the cheapest of the top 4 receivers, looking at Kupp and Beckham and obviously Jamar Chase. He has the chance once again, as we said earlier, for a big game. So love the setup for him. And then Samaje Perine, we see him take over as kind of the 3rd down back in tandem with Joe Mixon in that role, coming off a big game last week, 3 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago in the AFC Championship game. So a good cheap option as well as going with the kicker there for the Rams. So like the setup for the Rams if you're going to stack them on DraftKings.
All right, good to talk with our fantasy guys, Jamie Eisenberg and Dave Richard, and you can hear much more from them and Heath Cummings and Adam Azer and others on the Fantasy Football Today podcast. Download and follow. They're going to have much more on DFS for the game and props as well as we lead up to Super Bowl 56. Playing Together, presented by Verbo, a place for together. And together, we make history on HQ. Our first kickers-only segment. You got Matt Gay for the Rams, Evan Mcpherson for the Bengals, and there's nobody better to talk kickers than the son of Breach, the kicker for the Bengals the last time they were in the Super Bowl. Jim Breach, this is his son John. If you don't know already, that's all they talk about on the Pick 6 podcast. Great to have you with us. Can you believe we're doing a full segment on kickers?
I can't. I'm sure when my dad's watching this, when he sees this video out, he's going to have a tear in his eye knowing that I convinced the producers to do a whole segment of kickers. I never thought this day would come, Chris.
Well, let's get into it. kicking props, when you look at these two kickers, I mean, we're mostly taking Mcpherson props because, I mean, he's the guy who's been kicking Cincinnati from playoff win to playoff win to playoff win. Don't know much about Matt Gay.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's been so far. Evan Mcpherson, he is setting playoff records as a rookie. We're talking about he's got 12 field goals so far. The most of any playoff in NFL history is 14 by Adam Vinatieri. So Evan Mcpherson could break that with 3 field goals in the Super Bowl. So Evan Mcpherson has just been on a roll, and that is why my favorite prop, and by the way, literally any over with Evan Mcpherson feels like a safe bet, but my favorite kicking points prop going into this game is Evan Mcpherson over 7.5 points. And that's more because I kind of like the value there. You could go over 1.5 field goals, but you're getting a little bit better value with that 7.5. The one thing about Evan Mcpherson is in these 3 playoff wins from Cincinnati, he is averaging over 13 points per game. That is an insane number for a kicker. All you need to hit this prop is 8 points, and he is averaging 13 in the playoffs. So I think he's going to get that 8.
I can't believe our next topic. Guarantee we've never had it before. Your top made extra point prop.
Yeah, you know, with extra points, it's a little dicier because both these coaches are kind of conservative. They both love to kick field goals. You know, if the 4th and 1 from the 8-yard line, I feel like Sean McVay, Zach Taylor are both guys who are going to kick field goals and not go for the touchdown. So with extra points, that's the one where I go all in on the value. And with this one, it is all on Evan Mcpherson because you're getting plus money, plus 115 if he goes over 2.5. So if the Bengals can score 3 touchdowns, it is very likely we're going to see Evan Mcpherson hit that over. And really, this is one of the few kicking props where you can get plus money just from an individual kicker, not both kickers combined. So I like Evan Mcpherson over 2.5 extra points here.
That brings us to our top made field goal prop from John Breach. You do get us plus money, but it is combining both kickers.
Right. So the plus with Mcpherson, that over 1.5, you know, the guys at Caesar Sportsbook told us that is one of the top 5 most bet on props right now. But the problem with that is it's negative 130. So you're not getting great value. Matt Gay over 1.5 field goals is negative 135. So again, you're not getting great value. But where you are getting the value is over 3.5 field goals. If these two kickers combine for 4 more field goals, you're paying out plus 120. That's a fantastic number because, look, Evan Mcpherson alone has hit 4 field goals in every game of the playoffs so far. So maybe he gives you 3, Gay gives you 1. Maybe they both hit 2, but you just need 4 more, and that one almost feels like a lock.
I couldn't believe it sitting here earlier today. Pete Prisco was in that very seat, and he hates kickers. But one of his favorite props for the Super Bowl is that one of the kickers will hit the upright on a field goal. So the next prop is this. Will a kicker miss a field goal by hitting the upright? Yes is 6-1. No is 9-1.
Well, Prisco talking about
minus 900, I should say.
Yeah, minus 900's low value. But Prisco talking about a kicker prop, that was about 10,000 to 1 chance of happening. Because, like you said, he hates kickers and never talks about them. This is one where the answer is probably you should bet no. But, there's just zero value with that. If you want to have fun watching every extra point and every field goal in this game, you bet yes. Because plus 600, 6-1, that is just great money. And I will say that Evan Mcpherson did miss a kick off the upright this season. Matt Gay did miss a kick off the upright this season. So they both had at least one kick that went off an upright and missed. And you know what? It can be an extra point. It can be a field goal. Just any missed kick. So I'd sprinkle a little on the yes here.
What's your top kicking prop for the game?
I like to, Hassel. I think one of my favorite ones is the team that has the furthest field goal. And I absolutely love the Bengals here because Zach Taylor has so much faith in Evan Mcpherson. I won't be surprised if we see him try 54, 55, 56 yards. I think anything inside 60 the Bengals would try, but I don't think the Rams feel as comfortable with Matt Gay right now. We saw him fall short on a 47-yarder against the Buccaneers. We saw him miss a 54-yarder pretty badly in the NFC Championship game. So I think Sean McVay is going to be a little bit more conservative with the distance he uses with Matt Gay. And then the other one is another plus-sided prop, and it is that both kickers hit a field goal of over 35 yards. Like I was saying, both coaches are conservative, and I think we will see both these guys get a chance to try a field goal of 35 yards or longer.
Our producer, Jack, says that our graphics gatherer and graphics builder, John DiMaggio, says that we actually have built more graphics on CBS Sports HQ for Mcpherson than we have for Joe Mixon.
Hey, Mcpherson is the star of the show. So we're at a Bengals Super Bowl talking about kickers. I'm literally in heaven right now.
John Breach with us here on CBS Sports HQ. This is his game. He loves it. His Bengals in the Super Bowl. He says he's going to cry, win, or lose. Your daily NFL fix with Will Brinson on the Pick Six podcast with the cast of characters like John Breach, Ryan Wilson, and many, many more. Up next on our props special, we welcome back the Pick Six guys, Brinson, Breach, Wilson, and Pete Prisco to get you some more props.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.